The very nice aspect of this type of program, there is so much latitude in that if you're in marketing and you don't like marketing and you want to switch to actuarial work, you can. If you're in supply chain or manufacturing and you wake up one day and you hate it and you want to move over to marketing, you can. The latitude of business analytics goes across multiple sectors within business marketing analytics and so on and so forth. So the students walking into current state 2021, 2022 business marketing analytics need to know what's going on. And this is one of the very few programs that actually is going to cover that.
Welcome back to Mitchell Moments podcast. I'm your host, Stacy Wellborn. I'm a current PhD student at USA, and I'm making the podcast I wish I would have had before starting back to school. On this episode, we meet Professor and Global Scholar Bill Dish. Global Scholars are visiting instructors who come to our campus to share their knowledge and experience. In this episode, Bill talks about why he decided to teach at USA and with Dr. Joe Hare, what makes this program different from many others out there, advice and insights on navigating and thriving in a high-level business graduate and PhD program, and he explains what the heck is a DataRobot. Dr. Bill Dish, tell our listeners a little bit about you.
Well, my background is my PhD is in experimental psychology and quantitative analytics. So essentially, I'm a psychologist with a stats degree or a statistician with a psych degree. But my main focus is predictive analytics, multivariate analytics. But the biggest deliverable that I bring to the table is the applied side, which is basically how to articulate research results to an audience in the language that the audience understands. That's kind of the bottom line for students, for faculty, people working in business and industry. That's the bottom line, is who cares what you do analytically if you can't explain it in a language that your audience understands so that they can use the information.
Now, I noticed in our communication, your email is a kind of a corporate address, not a school address. Are you also teaching? Explain to me a little bit about DataRobot.
Yeah, I'm a college professor still, but I work in the private sector.
Great.
And there's a lot of us that sort of where we wear multiple hats. So I'm actually working in the business world, been working in the business world for 20 years, but I also teach at the professor level.
Do you have specific research areas that you can talk about?
There's a couple of research areas. I would say one would be data reduction. Data reduction is basically, think of it as taking a huge pile of information, looking for statistical and other types of patterns, and then reducing that giant pile of data, that giant pile of information into groups or profiles or segments or factors that make sense to people, and you can use them to make decisions from an analytics standpoint. So that's one area of research. The other, from an academic standpoint, I would say increasing the efficacy of systems, whether it be data architecture and building models and things like that. And then back in the day, my big academic research interest area is quality of life. So I've always assessed quality of life, how to improve your quality of life, make your life better, deal with the things that make your life worse, become a better person, a happier person, pay it forward. Those types of things. So I'm always kind of dabbling in quality of life research. Everything I do is related to quality of life.
Interesting. Tell me how you've got connected to the USA program and what role you're going to play here.
Well, what's interesting is, so my company has a platform that does automated machine learning. And so Joe Hare and then two other faculty that are actually part of the program with Hermano and Joe Hare, Dana from Eastern Tennessee, and then Haya from Elon University, they're colleagues of Joe as well. And what happened was I've actually done work in the past with Dana and Haya, and we did a conference together. So we all presented applied machine learning in marketing. It was a very, very specific presentation we did at a AMA, American Marketing Association conference. And one thing led to another. Dr. Joe Hare heard me do my spiel and my pitch and my very applied side of, how I see the academic world. In other words, if a student gets a PhD or a master's or a bachelor's degree and it's market analytics related, can they go out there and do the job that they need to do if they get hired by a marketing or related company? And I have very strong feelings about that. So long story short, Joe heard me, and then we just connected. Simultaneously, as you probably know, Joe Hare, well, it's basically Dana Harrison, Eastern Tennessee, Haya Adjin from Elon University, and Joe Hare from USA. They have a book that's coming out. It's actually just got released, and it's Marketing Analytics, Intro to Marketing Analytics. I have a little piece in there as well, but it all came together. And then Joe asked me, would you like to be part of this new program? And what really, I said, it sounds great. Give me a little more information. But what really struck me and what I'm going to do primarily is the applied analytics and the applied statistical and the applied method side. And so everything just kind of fell together, and I have a tiny bit of time to do this. And but I really like Joe and the way he does things. I like the way Joe and Hermano drive their analytics and how they contextualize analytics in the context of the program. And so we had a couple conversations, and that was it. And then I'm with USA, which is I'm really looking forward to it. I'm very excited. And it's always nice because, and Joe and Hermano and I, we've all done this before in the past, but when you kick off a new program, you think on paper it looks great. And this program on paper looks fantastic. But give us a year where the rubber meets the road, let's say fall next year, and we'll have a really good idea of how things went. But we're incredibly hopeful. I think the team, the rest of the faculty on this team is absolutely, it's incredible. So I'm thoroughly impressed with the program. You know, if I was 20 years younger, this would be a program I would apply to. The most important thing about this program is that it is completely and totally current in that, look, this is 2021 in the midst of COVID. We have a lot of automated and highly modern technological processes going on for analytics. Marketing uses it, the business world uses it, insurance, banking, finance, supply chain, everybody uses this stuff. However, very few people know about it and very few people use it well. So the students walking into current state 2021, 2022 business marketing analytics need to know what's going on. And this is one of the very few programs that actually is going to cover that.
It seems like it is really setting up for the students in this program to have such amazing opportunities for research, because I don't think there's been a lot, correct me if I'm wrong, there's not a huge body of research in this space because it's still a relatively new, less understood, I guess, area. Would you agree with that?
It's not that it's not understood. It's that a lot of the techniques and a lot of the analytics are the same analytics we've been using for 20, 30, 40 years. The majority of the analytics we use, you know, they all come out of the 50s and 60s and 70s. And those will never change. The statistical analyses are there. It's how you apply the statistical analyses using especially modern techniques that include automated machine learning, a massive amount of classification models, alternatives to traditional, what we call GLM, general linear models, statistical modeling. Because of the context of how data sets are made up these days, a lot of the old techniques don't work anymore. Right. So general linear model, anything related to that, generally you have very strict assumptions in your data. So one of the classic assumptions of data is that continuous variables, numeric variables need to be normally distributed. If you don't have that, you can't run the majority of these statistical analyses that are available. So you can either transform your data or you can use alternative techniques, decision tree modeling, classification modeling, and so on and so forth. And that's what's really boomed in the last 10 years in the industry. It's been about 10 years in academia. It's been about 5 years. All of this stuff, it actually came out of the data mining programs, the old school data mining programs from the early 2000s that were in the very, very back. Someone would shove them in the back of a stats or a math department. And, you know, they would draw straws to see who had to teach the data mining classes. But it's come full circle now. And what's happening, and USA is a great example of that. This is now going to be one of the premier programs that is doing modeling and analytics current state that a lot of the programs are not doing. They just have not adopted yet. So it's good. They're going to get it in 2 or 3 or 4 years. But this particular program, the whole thing's been flipped over now. So this is current state, best analytics that are out there. So let's go ahead and leverage that for our students.
So for our folks that may listen to the podcast who are considering a PhD, advanced education, what would be some advice to you and their consideration set and questions they should consider?
When I put on my advisor hat, when I'm an academic advisor for my own students, I'm a quality of life guy, right? So my research, I'm a psychologist, I do quality of life research. And I'll always say things like, well, no matter what you do, make sure you're happy. But how do you know what it is you want to do that makes you happy? Well, it's process of elimination. So you do whatever you do and you go into a particular direction. You say, well, I think I want to do applied marketing analytics on the client side. Well, go ahead and do that. And then see what happens after 2 or 3 years. Either you're going to like it or you're not. If you don't like it, well, you need to change careers. You need to change your career path, change your job. Maybe you want to work and just be the analyst and not deal with the client-facing side. So it's generally a process of elimination. If you know the general direction you want to go, maximize what you can get from a degree standpoint. Get that entry-level position, the best one that you think you will actually enjoy doing that has a halfway decent salary attached to it, and then start working in the working world. But don't be afraid to, if you wake up one day and say, I really hate this aspect of my job. Well, you can get another job. Just go get another job or another career. But there's the old but, right? Don't quit your day job. So don't quit your current job until you get the new position. But generally, it's harder to tell people what to do. It's easier to, and most people, you've done it, I've done it, we've all done it, where it's easier for us to explain what we don't like in terms of what we've done for work than what we think we might want to do because we haven't done it yet. And I tell that to my students all the time. If you think you're going to like it, try it out. And you might like it. That's great. If you don't like it, you can always switch. You can always move to something else. So I don't want to do quantitative research. I want to do qualitative research. I don't want to do survey research. I want to just run models by myself. I don't really want to have a lot of contact with others. And sooner or later, after 2, 3, 4, 5 years, you'll bounce into the position that really fits you as a person. And that's generally where you find the happiest people. They go to work, they wake up, and for the most part, they like what they do. They like going to work. They're paid a halfway decent salary. They're cool with that. They have a good lifestyle. And at least 3 or 4 days out of 5 a week, they like what they do and they're a happy person. And that's kind of what it's all about. We want to die happy, right? That's what I study, actually. And how do you die happy? Well, you wake up every day not dreading going to work. If you dread going to work, you're doing the wrong thing. You're in the wrong business. So I think that's really important. And I think a lot of people are that it's hard for them. It's hard for them because they force themselves to do things that they think they need to do. And it's not what they should be doing because they're miserable, stressed out, a lot of health problems, so on and so forth. Is that really how you want to live your life? So there's some reality checks that kind of go into that. If you're going to get a PhD, that's great. But is that really the direction you want to go? And do you have latitude? Latitude is a huge one. Certain PhDs, for example, are very limited. Let me give you an example. If you go clinical psychology, and you got a PhD in clinical psychology, you've pretty much signed on to be a clinician for the rest of your life. A clinician that does research or a clinician that doesn't do research. What if you wake up one day and you hate working with clients and patients? You're kind of stuck.
You don't have a lot of choices. Yeah.
There's not a whole lot you can do, not a whole lot of latitude. However, if you have a PhD in marketing analytics, okay, I'm using you as an example here. You got a PhD in marketing analytics. Well, you go to a big company, Fortune 500 company, and you do whatever you do. And then you wake up one day and you say, God, I hate big companies. This is not fun anymore. And then you get a new position with a little startup, head of marketing. You're a department of one person. And you do that for, this is fun, crazy, but fun. You do that for 5, 6, 7 years. And you wake up one day and go, I hate little small companies. They're not a startup anymore. The average person is going to change careers up to probably about 7 times during their whole career.
Wow.
So that's it's increased quite a bit over the last 20, 30 years. There's going to be 3 or 4 major changes and 2 or 3 minor types. And people need to be ready for that, I think. I try and emphasize that with my students. Be prepared to shift around a little.
Folks that may come through this program and get a business analytics PhD, they have opportunities in academia and in practice. Would you agree?
Yes.
So they do have that latitude.
Yep.
So someone who wants to go into academia and be in the professor world with this degree, are there opportunities out there for them?
Oh, definitely. And it depends on it depends on where they came from and where they did their undergrad work and if they already have a master's degree. Do they have connections with different schools? Do they want to go full-time academia, part-time academia, be an adjunct, maybe take a non-tenure track position, take a tenure track position. What's really interesting right now, especially with students in this type of program, many of the students in this type of program, they've been working in the regular business world for several years. They have an incredible background. Now you throw on a PhD on top of that. What's really kind of nice about that, it's a little with the experience and the applied experience that they bring to the table, especially if they have a strong background in statistics and research, there are more full-time faculty jobs available in different schools, not just in the US, but globally. So that experience actually comes in really, really handy. And then many faculty, it's really interesting and probably not surprising though, many faculty end up back at one of the schools where they either got their bachelor's or their master's because they kind of maintain some of those relationships with their old professors. Something comes up and they like the school perhaps, and it's like, well, maybe I'll apply for that tenure track position in the marketing department. Next thing you know, they're, if you want to go that full-time academic route. But a lot of people in the business world, in the applied world, I say, one of the advantages to being a part-time professor is that you don't have to deal with administrative stuff. So you don't have to run committees. You don't have to attend all these meetings. You teach classes full of students and you do research, and that's it. And people like me, that's what I prefer. I've been full-time faculty before, and the teaching side's great. I love it. Give me my students and I'm a happy guy, but throw me in all these meetings and make me do all the admin stuff. I'm good at it. I like it, but not very much. So I would prefer to just work with the students. And I have the latitude in my career. I'm able to do that however I want to. But I also love working in the private sector. I love working in the business world. Working with clients to solve business problems is just as gratifying as working with students, seeing them graduate and then seeing them get that awesome job because they were highly qualified for it. That is, in fact, Joe and Hermano and I were talking about that last time we had a conversation. And one of the best feelings for a professor is when one of your students, they graduate, they get their degree, they get this job that they're highly qualified for, and then they send you an email, 6 months, a year down the line. They say, I'm very happy. I'm doing really, really well. They love me.
That is a good email to get.
And it's really, really nice because that's why we do what we do. We love to see our students succeed, right? And we'll do whatever we can on the academic side. And then we're connected. We have some connections out there in the real world. But, to see students get to that level, that's what it's all about. And when we were back in grad school, that was what we were trying to do. And, we've made it to this point, and now we're trying to help other people to do the same thing. And that's the fun part of this whole process. Get these people to the next level, like you, for example.
Yeah. Thank you. Well, we covered everything I wanted to get. I think this has been a great conversation. I would just say, is there any other piece of advice that you would have for people considering or starting the program to be successful through the program?
Do your research. Make sure this is what you think you want to do. It's a big chunk of your life to bite off, in a sense. And I said the word latitude a little earlier. The very nice aspect of this type of program, and this program in particular, there is so much latitude in that if you're in marketing and you don't like marketing and you want to switch to actuarial work, you can. If you're in supply chain or manufacturing and you wake up one day and you hate it and you want to move over to marketing, you can. The latitude of business analytics goes across multiple sectors within business marketing analytics and so on and so forth. So that opens up the door for many, many, many more career paths rather than going into a pigeonhole type program where you're only doing sort of one thing. This is kind of on par with, if you think about these global MBA type programs, global finance, global MBA. Those students tend to get higher paying jobs because they have a global contextual degree as opposed to a very myopic degree. So that's what's kind of nice about this program. There's a lot of latitude for different sectors and different vectors and different verticals. So I think that's really important.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. I've enjoyed getting to know you, and I'd love to follow up maybe later via email and talk a little bit more with you about the quality of life research you do.
Yeah, I want to see your data set for your dissertation. I'll give you a review.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate you, and hope to see you when you come to Mobile.
Yes, in 2022. Yeah, I'll talk to you guys later.
Thanks, Will. Take care.
Bye.
Global scholars are really an important part of this program. Passionate instructors that are also on the cutting edge of industry, like Bill is with DataRobot, are what I love about this program. Not only do they give us up-to-date information, tools, and educational resources, but they also give real-world applications of how our lessons and our degree can be used in such versatile ways, not only in the classroom, but also in the global marketplace. Thanks for listening to Mitchell Moments, presented by the University of South Alabama Mitchell College of Business. Please subscribe, rate, and review this podcast anywhere you get your favorite podcast. It really helps the show be found by more wonderful listeners like you. If you want to know more about this podcast or the USA Mitchell College of Business and any of their undergraduate and graduate programs, visit the About page on mitchellmomentspodcast.com. All the different links will be there for you to get more information on enrollment, financial matters, and admission requirements. The links can also be found in the show notes. We would love to know what you think about our show. Please contact us at mitchellmomentspodcast.com with any comments, suggestions, or just to say hello. Until next time, thanks again for listening to the Mitchell Moments podcast, and go Jags!